Dear students, I have come up with a new problem today on the royalty accounts. In this problem, we are going to prepare minimum rent account and also other accounts, royalty account, short workings account and landlord's account also. Okay, here problem is written on the board. We'll go through the problem, try to understand it. Then after that, we can prepare the necessary accounts. On 1st January 2005, the Mysore Mining Company leased a piece of land for a minimum rent of rupees 2000 in the first year, rupees 4000 in the second year, and rupees 6000 in the next years. Here, Mysore Mining Company is there. It has entered into an agreement with the landlord and has agreed to pay rupees 2000 as minimum rent in the first year and rupees 4000 as a minimum rent in the second year and rupees 6000 as a minimum rent for the next years. It means here the minimum rent fixed is not the same for all the years. Minimum rent for first year is different, second year is different and other years is different. This is the main difference in this problem. Next one is here royalty is given. The royalty of 25 paise per ton of coal raised was agreed to be paid. Here 25 paise per ton is to be taken as the royalty which is to be given to the landlord with power to recoup short workings over the first 3 years only. Here the right of recovering the short workings is given only for the first 3 years. Only first 3 years are to be used for the recovery of short workings. In case in the first year if short working is there, that has to be recovered within the next 2 years only. It means total only 3 years time is there to recover the short workings. In case in the second year if short working is there, in order to recover that one, the next, that is the third year, is the last year to recover the short working. That is why here only first 3 years are the time which is given to the company to recover the short workings if any. Next one is the output is given for the 4 years. 2005 2000 tons were extracted. In the year 2006 12,000 tons were extracted. In 2007 3,000, 32,000 tons were extracted, and 2008 48,000 tons were extracted. Okay, fine. What we have to do here? We have to write up minimum rent account, short workings account, landlord's account in the books of Mysore Mining Company. Okay, fine. Here in this problem, we are going to prepare minimum rent account. Here, what is the difference in journal entries that try to understand? Whenever the royalty is payable, we passed one journal entry. What journal entry we passed? Royalty account we debited, right? Try to understand this one. Royalty account is to be debited. Next one is short workings account is also is to be debited. Next one is to landlord's account. To landlord's account. This is the due entry which we used to pass in our what you call previous problems. The problems which we solved so far, in such problems we pass this journal entry as the first journal entry. Whenever the royalty was payable, journal entry is royalty account is debited, short workings account is debited, and landlord's account is also, landlord's account is credited. But now we are going to prepare minimum rent account. You see, what is the meaning of minimum rent? Minimum rent means this is the amount of money which is to be given to the landlord in case if the actual royalty is less than the short working. Okay, what is the journal entry? Royalty account is debited, short workings account is debited, and the landlord's account is to be credited. Here we are going to prepare minimum rent account. What is the meaning of minimum rent? Here minimum rent means this is the fixed amount of money which is agreed to be paid by the user of the right, by the company, to whom? To the landlord, whenever the actual royalty falls below the minimum rent. if the minimum rent is more than the actual royalty, in that case minimum rent amount is required to be given to the company. Therefore, here minimum rent is nothing but the total of actual royalty and short workings. You take for example, here actual royalty is rupees 20,000 and short working is rupees 10,000 and minimum rent fixed is rupees 30,000. Here, what is the meaning of this? If actual royalty is rupees 20,000, then short workings comes to rupees how much? 10,000. If the actual royalty is rupees 25,000, just you see, if actual royalty is rupees 25,000, what is the short working? Rupees 5,000, because minimum rent fixed by the parties is rupees how much? 30,000. If minimum rent is 30,000, then we have to calculate like this. Actual royalty, if 25,000 is there, 5,000 is called as short workings. This is the actual royalty and this one is the short working. In case if the actual royalty is rupees 20,000, then short workings will be how much? Rupees 10,000, right? Therefore, we can say that the total of short workings and actual royalty is nothing but what here? Minimum rent. Because of that reason, here instead of passing this journal entry, what we are going to do whenever minimum rent account is asked to be prepared, in that case what you do, you remember this journal entry. Instead of royalty and short workings, what we are going to take? Minimum rent. I told you the total of this one is equal to minimum rent. Therefore, when the minimum rent is payable, minimum rent account is to be debited. Next one is to landlord's account. To landlord's account. See, one thing you remember here, minimum rent account is opened only when there is a short working. If short working is not there, then question of opening minimum rent doesn't arise. That is why here, instead of passing this journal entry, what we are going to pass? Minimum rent account is to be debited and the landlord's account is to be credited. Then after this, the next journal entry, what do we have to pass is, in order to close minimum rent account, we need to take royalty and short workings. Royalty account is to be debited. Next one is short workings account is also debited to minimum rent account. To minimum rent account. Okay, in order to understand this one, you take the minimum rent fixed by the parties is rupees 50,000. What is this? Minimum rent. Assume in one particular year, the actual royalty has come to rupees 35,000. What is this? This is the actual royalty. If actual royalty is less than the minimum rent, whatever difference is there, that difference we call as a short working. Therefore, how much short working is there here? In this example, rupees 15,000 is the short working. This is actual royalty. Next one is short working is how much? Rupees 15,000. Now total comes to rupees how much? Total comes to rupees 50,000. Therefore, here what I am going to do, I am putting these figures in these two journal entries. Here minimum rent account is debited. Minimum rent account is how much? Rupees 50,000. What is the amount of minimum rent? 50,000. And the landlord's account is credited with the amount of rupees 50,000. Next one is when minimum rent account is to be closed, that time we pass this journal entry. Royalty account is debited. What is the amount of actual royalty? 35,000. And short working account is also debited with the amount of rupees 15,000. And minimum rent account is credited with the amount of rupees 50,000. Just you see here, in the first entry, minimum rent account is debited with the amount of rupees 50,000. And in the second entry, minimum rent account is credited with the amount of rupees 50,000. Now, minimum rent account gets closed. This way, what we have to do? We have to pass the entries whenever minimum rent account is asked to prepare. But remember one thing, minimum rent account is opened only when there is a short working. ಯಾವಾಗ ಶಾರ್ಟ್ ವರ್ಕಿಂಗ್ ಇರುತ್ತಲ್ಲ ಆವಾಗ ಮಾತ್ರ ನಾವು ಏನ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗ್ತದೆ, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಮಿನಿಮಮ್ ರೆಂಟ್ ಖಾತೆಯನ್ನ ಓಪನ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಈ ಮಿನಿಮಮ್ ರೆಂಟ್ ಖಾತೆಯನ್ನ ಓಪನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು, ಎರಡು ಜರ್ನಲ್ ಎಂಟ್ರೀಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಮುಖ್ಯವಾಗಿ ನೆನಪಿಡಬೇಕು. ಮೊದಲನೇ ಜರ್ನಲ್ ಎಂಟ್ರಿ ಏನಿದೆ, ಮಿನಿಮಮ್ ರೆಂಟ್ ಅಕೌಂಟ್ಗೆ ಡೆಬಿಟ್ ಕೊಡಬೇಕು, ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಲಾರ್ಡ್ ಅಕೌಂಟ್ಗೆ ಕ್ರೆಡಿಟ್ ಕೊಡಬೇಕು. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಈ ಮಿನಿಮಮ್ ರೆಂಟ್ ಅಕೌಂಟ್ ಅನ್ನ ಕ್ಲೋಸ್ ಮಾಡೋ ಸಲುವಾಗಿ ನಾವು ಮತ್ತೊಂದು ಜರ್ನಲ್ ಎಂಟ್ರಿ ಪಾಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ರಾಯಲ್ಟಿ ಅಕೌಂಟ್ ಡೆಬಿಟ್ ಕೊಡಬೇಕು, ಶಾರ್ಟ್ ವರ್ಕಿಂಗ್ಸ್ ಅಕೌಂಟ್ಗೂ ಡೆಬಿಟ್ ಕೊಡಬೇಕು, ಆಮೇಲೆ ಮಿನಿಮಮ್ ರೆಂಟ್ ಅಕೌಂಟ್ ಖಾತೆಗೆ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಕ್ರೆಡಿಟ್ ಕೊಡಬೇಕು. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಿ ಮಿನಿಮಮ್ ರೆಂಟ್ ಅಕೌಂಟ್ ಏನಿದೆ ಡೆಬಿಟ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದೀವಿ, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಮಿನಿಮಮ್ ರೆಂಟ್ ಅಕೌಂಟ್ಗೆ ನಾವು ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ, ಕ್ರೆಡಿಟ್ ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಅಮೌಂಟ್ ಲಿಂತ್ರ. ಅದಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಮಿನಿಮಮ್ ರೆಂಟ್ ಅಕೌಂಟ್ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಕ್ಲೋಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. If you remember these entries, the other entries will remain same. Then easily you can prepare the accounts. Try to remember these two entries whenever minimum rent account is asked in the problem. Okay, first we will prepare the table showing the calculation of royalty payable to the landlord. If the name of the landlord is given, in that case you can also take his name. Okay, first column is year column, next one is output column. Output you write in tons. Next one is actual royalty, we write actual royalty in rupees. Next one is minimum rent or dead rent, want to write. After that write short workings. In short workings again we split into 3 columns. First one is deficit, next one is recovered and irrecovered short workings we write here, irrecovered. Here you write short workings on the top. And last column, amount payable to landlord. Okay, let us write the year 2005. How many units were extracted? 2000 tons. Next one is in the year 2006, 12,000 tons. Next one is in the year 2007, 32,000 tons were extracted. In the year 2008, 48,000 tons were extracted. Now remember, 25 paise per ton is the actual royalty. 25 paise per ton means 1/4 of the total, what you call, the units extracted. That is why 25 paise in the sense, how to calculate this one? You see 2000 is there, 2000. 25 paise means 25 by 100. Therefore, it comes to how much? 500. Therefore, 500 is nothing but the royalty for the first year. 500. 1/4 of this output we have to calculate. I hope you understood. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಏನ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ, 25 ಪೈಸೆ ಪ್ರತಿ ಟನ್ನಿಗೆ ಅಂತ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. 25 ಪೈಸೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಎಷ್ಟಾಗತ್ತೆ? 1/4 1/4 ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಅದಕ್ಕಾಗಿ 1/4 ಆಫ್ ಈ ಔಟ್ಪುಟ್ ನಾವು ಕ್ಯಾಲ್ಕುಲೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ನಮಗೆ ಆಕ್ಚುಯಲ್ ರಾಯಲ್ಟಿ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಎಷ್ಟು ಬರುತ್ತೆ? 3,000 ರೂಪಾಯಿ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಒನ್ ಈಸ್ 1/4 ಆಫ್ 32,000 means 8,000. Next one is here, it comes to rupees 12,000. This is the actual royalty. Next one is minimum rent is given, but here minimum rent is different in different years. In the first year, minimum rent rupees how much? 2,000 is to be taken. In the second year, it is 4,000, and next 2 years we have to take rupees 6,000 and rupees 6,000. It is clearly given in the problem. You see here, rupees 2,000 in the first year, 4,000 in the second year, and rupees 6,000 in the next years. Next years in the sense, in the third year and fourth year, we have to take rupees 6,000 and 6,000. Then after this, what do we have to do? We have to find out the deficit. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಿ, minimum rent is more than the actual royalty. Therefore, deficit is there rupees 1500. Amount payable to the landlord is rupees 2000. That is the minimum rent. In the next year, 1000 deficit is there. The minimum rent is rupees 4000. Therefore, the amount payable to the landlord is rupees 4000. Next one is in the third year, excess royalty is there. Actual royalty is more and minimum rent is less. In this case, what we have to do? We have to look to the right of recoupment. What is the right of recoupment here? It is there only for first 3 years. It is applicable only for the first 3 years. It means the royalties must be recovered within the first 3 years only. Whether the short workings, not royalties. Here, if short working is there, that short working can be recovered within the first 3 years only. Whether the short working is there in the first year, second year, or third year, whatever it may be, within the first 3 years only, the company has to recover the short workings. If short working is there in the first year, the company can recover in the next 2 years. If short working is there in the second year also, it can be recovered in the third year. Even in the third year, if short working is there, then the total amount is to be treated as loss. Hence, company won't get the chance to recover such type of short workings. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್ ಆಗಿ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಮೊದಲಿನ 3 ವರ್ಷಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತ್ರ ಏನಿದೆ ಶಾರ್ಟ್ ವರ್ಕಿಂಗ್ ಅನ್ನ ರಿಕವರಿ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಳ್ಳುವಂತ ಹಕ್ಕು ಕಂಪನಿಗೆ ಇದೆ ಅಂತ ಒಪ್ಪಂದದಲ್ಲಿ ಬರೆದಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅದಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕಂಪನಿ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಮೊದಲಿನ 3 ವರ್ಷಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದಂತಹ ಎಕ್ಸೆಸ್ ರಾಯಲ್ಟಿಯನ್ನ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಶಾರ್ಟ್ ವರ್ಕಿಂಗ್ ರಿಕವರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ ಸಲುವಾಗಿ ಉಪಯೋಗಿಸಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ಓಕೆ ಫೈನ್. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಿ 2007 in the year 2005 1500 deficit was there. In the year 2006 again 1000 deficit is there. Means short workings is there in the first year as well as in the second year, and this is the last year to recover these short workings. What is the total amount of short workings? 1500 and 1000. Total is 2500 is the short working in the first year and second year. Now, in order to recover this short working, for us or for the company, only 1 year is left. That is the third year. In that third year, if we get the excess royalty, then we can recover it. In case if we won't get the excess royalty, that is to be treated as loss. Okay, fine. Here 2500, what is this? This is the total short workings of the first 2 years. And in the second year, you see, in the third year, you see 8000 is the actual royalty and minimum rent is 6000. Means 2000 rupees is the excess royalty in the third year. Therefore, this rupees 2000, that excess amount can be applied for the recovery of short workings. See, out of 2500, now the company recovered rupees 2000. This rupees 500 is called as the irrecovered short workings. ಟೋಟಲ್ ಎಷ್ಟಿತ್ತು ಶಾರ್ಟ್ ವರ್ಕಿಂಗ್ 2500 ಇತ್ತು. ಆದ್ರೆ 3ನೇ ವರ್ಷದಲ್ಲಿ 2000 ರೂಪಾಯಿ ಏನ್ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, ಎಕ್ಸೆಸ್ ರಾಯಲ್ಟಿ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಆ ಎಕ್ಸೆಸ್ ರಾಯಲ್ಟಿಯನ್ನ ನಾವು ಏನ್ ಮಾಡಿದೀವಿ, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಅದನ್ನ ರಿಕವರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋ ಸಲುವಾಗಿ ಉಪಯೋಗ ಮಾಡಿದೀವಿ. 2000 ರಿಕವರಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಈ ವರ್ಷ ಕೊನೆ ವರ್ಷ ಆಗಿದ್ರಿಂದ 500 ಅನ್ನ ನಾವ್ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಇರ್ರಿಕವರಿ ಕಾಲಮ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ತೋರಿಸ್ತೀವಿ. ವೆರಿ ಸಿಂಪಲ್ ಥಿಂಗ್. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಲಾರ್ಡ್ ಗೆ ದುಡ್ಡು ಕೊಡುವಂತದ್ದು ಎಷ್ಟಪ್ಪ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, ಮಿನಿಮಮ್ ರೆಂಟ್ ಎಷ್ಟಿದೆ, ಇಲ್ಲಿ 6000 ರೂಪಾಯಿ ಇದೆ. 6000 ರೂಪಾಯಿ ಅವನಿಗೆ ಕೊಡಬೇಕು. ಆಮೇಲೆ 4ನೇ ವರ್ಷದಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವುದೇ ರಿಕವರಿ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಡೆಫಿಸಿಟ್ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಎಷ್ಟು ದುಡ್ಡು ಬರುತ್ತಲ್ಲ ಆಕ್ಚುಯಲ್ ರಾಯಲ್ಟಿ, ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಟು ಬಿ ಗಿವನ್ ಟು ದ ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಲಾರ್ಡ್. ಹಿಯರ್ ಇನ್ ದ 4th year, excess royalty is there. Actual royalty is more than the minimum rent, and there is no recovery of the short workings. That is why whatever the actual royalty comes, that amount is paid to the landlord. Now we prepared the table or the chart showing the calculation of royalty and short workings. Now we will prepare the necessary accounts. Okay, first one is I am going to write minimum rent account. Try to understand minimum rent account. Minimum rent account. This account is to be prepared only in case of short workings. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಿ, ಶಾರ್ಟ್ ವರ್ಕಿಂಗ್ಸ್ ಯಾವಾಗಿದೆ ಆವಾಗ ಮಾತ್ರ ಈ ಖಾತೆಯನ್ನ ನಾವು ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ, ಪ್ರಿಪೇರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಇನ್ ದ ಫಸ್ಟ್ 2 years only we get short workings. That is why here this account is prepared, or this account is prepared only for 2 years. Write year amount in rupees, year amount in rupees. Minimum rent account I am going to prepare. Next one is we have to prepare royalty account. Here I put royalty account. Royalty account. First I put the columns, then after that we can prepare, can enter the entries easily. Here you write year, particular amount in rupees, here, then write debit and credit, royalty account. The next one is landlord account, short workings account also to prepare. Short workings account. Same columns have to put here also. Write debit and credit. Here I write date particulars amount in rupees. And last account is landlord's account. Landlord's account. If name of the landlord is given, you write the name of the landlord here. Okay, now we will prepare different accounts here. Royalty chart is ready. And with the help of this royalty chart, we have to prepare minimum rent account, landlord's account, royalty account, short workings account, etc. Okay, fine. First, we'll go to the first year. In the year 2005, actual royalty is rupees 500 and the minimum rent is rupees 2000. Means here in this year, short working is there, right? If the short working is there, then only the minimum rent account is affected. Otherwise, minimum rent account will not be prepared in the years when there is no short working. Okay, what is the journal entry? First journal entry, just now I explained. Minimum rent account is to be debited and the landlord account is to be credited. In the year 2005, when the minimum rent amount is payable to the landlord, here I write minimum rent account is debited and to landlord account, to landlord's account with the amount of minimum rent. Minimum rent is rupees how much? 2000. Next one is the same amount I am writing on the credit side of landlord's account by minimum rent account. By minimum rent account, when we post the first journal entry, comes to rupees how much? 2000. This is the first journal entry. When the minimum rent is payable, minimum rent account is debited and the landlord's account is credited. Okay. Now, for closing the minimum rent account, we pass one entry. That entry is royalty account is debited, short workings account is debited and minimum rent account is credited. That is a very simple thing is there. 2005, simply you write here by royalty account with the amount of actual royalty, rupees how much? 500. Next one is by short workings account with the amount of rupees 1500. Now you see your minimum rent account is closed 2000 and here you write 2000. Next one is the same posting is also required to be made here in the royalty and short workings account. You write here to minimum rent account with the amount of rupees 500. Next one is here also you write to minimum rent account short working amount rupees 1500. Now when the payment is made to the landlord, what journal entry we pass? in the year 2005, landlord account is debited and cash account is to be credited with the amount of cash paid. Rupees how much? Rupees 2000. Now, landlord's account is closed. Here you write rupees 2000. How do you close a royalty account? Royalty account is closed by transferring the balance to P&L account. Already you have studied this part. By profit and loss account. Rupees how much? 500. You write 500 and rupees 500. Next one is short working account is closed in the same style. How to close this one? By balance carried on 1500. Close the account and this balance will become the opening balance for the next year. That is why in the year 2006 I write to balance brought down rupees 1500. Next one is come to the second year. In the second year also short working is there. Deficit is there. That is why in the second year also we pass the same journal entry. Minimum rent account is debited and landlord account is credited. 2006 to landlord's account. Here minimum rent is different, that you have to keep in mind, rupees 4000. In the year 2006, write by minimum rent account, rupees how much? 4000. When payment is made to the landlord, what journal entry do you pass? Landlord account to cash account, rupees how much? 4000. Now landlord account is closed. Here for closing minimum rent account, what do? We take the actual royalty of the year. How much? Actual royalty is rupees 3000. Next one is a short workings ratio. Short workings account rupees 1000. Now this account is closed. 4000 and rupees 4000. Now corresponding entry even in the royalty account and short workings account have to post by here to minimum rent account with the amount of actual royalty. Here you write to minimum rent account rupees how much? Rupees 1000. How do you close royalty account? Royalty account is closed by transferring the balance to P&L account. Very simple thing. By profit and loss account rupees 3000. Now royalty account gets closed. Now this account is short workings account is closed by taking the balance on the credit side 2006. By balance carried on rupees how much? 2500. Close the account 2500. Now this balance will become the opening balance for the year 2007. To balance brought down rupees 2500. Next one is come to third year. See, when we pass the journal entries, when there is no short working, the similar entries we have to take when minimum rent account is not opened. Here minimum rent account is opened only when short working is there. Short working ಇದ್ದಾಗ ಮಾತ್ರ minimum rent ಖಾತೆಯನ್ನು ನಾವೇನು ಮಾಡಬೇಕು? ಪ್ರಿಪೇರ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗ್ತದೆ. ಆದರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಮೂರನೇ ವರ್ಷದಲ್ಲಿ in the third year there is no short working. That is why question of preparing minimum rent account doesn't arise. That is why here what journal entry we have to pass? Here actual royalty is how much? Rupees 8000. Here journal entry we pass royalty account is debited to landlord account when royalty amount is payable. Therefore royalty account is debited 2007 to landlord account. What is the amount? Rupees 8000. In the year 2007, here we have to write by royalty account because minimum rent account is not going to be affected here. That is why this is the first entry, due entry. Whenever the royalty is payable, royalty account is debited and the landlord account is credited. When payment is made to the landlord, what journal entry do you pass? Landlord's account is debited and cash account is credited to cash account. Rupees how much? Rupees 8000. You close the account here. 8,000 and rupees 8,000. Oh, oh, oh. 8,000. Here something is to be done here. Okay, fine, no problem. Let it be. This one. रुपीस कितना है? Okay, next one is when the payment is made to the landlord. See here in the third year, payment is given to the landlord only rupees how much? 6,000. Why? Because out of excess royalty 2,000, full 2,000 is recovered and 500 is treated as recovered. Here also you need to cut. Okay, now you see here in the third year the payment made to the landlord was rupees 6,000 because whatever the excess royalty was there, that was applied for the recovery of short workings rupees 2,000, and the remaining irrecovered amount is shown in the irrecovery column. That is why here what journal entry is required to be passed for the payment of money or the royalty to the landlord. Here landlord account is debited and short workings account is to be credited to short workings account, because this is the recovery of short workings. Short workings account, how much amount was recovered from the landlord? Rupees 2,000, and the remaining amount will be paid to the landlord to cash account. Rupees how much? Rupees 6,000. Now close the account. Rupees 8,000 and rupees 8,000. Next one is about the short working. See here, when the short working is recovered, we have to write here in the year 2007 by landlord account. By landlord account, short working was recovered. How much? Rupees 2,000. Rupees 2,000. See, when 2,000 was recovered, 500 is transferred to profit and loss account by profit and loss account, because it is the loss. That is why here short working account is closed. 2,500 and 2,500. There is no balance as such. This is the way how we have to close short workings account. Now come to royalty account. In the year 2007, we close this account by transferring the balance to profit and loss account. Profit and loss account. Rupees how much? Rupees 8,000. Close the account. 8,000 and rupees 8,000. Now the last year, in the year 2008, actual royalty was rupees how much? Rupees 12,000, and minimum rent rupees 6,000. There is no short working, there is no recovery and no irrecovery. That is why whatever the actual royalty is there, that is given to the landlord. For this, what journal entry is required to be passed? Royalty account is debited and landlord account is credited. Now short workings account is completed. No other entries will come here. Therefore, in the year 2008, royalty account is debited and landlord's account is to be credited with the amount of rupees 12,000. Actual amount of royalty rupees 12,000. Here the same thing I am going to write here. The year 2008 by royalty account. By royalty account, what is the amount? Rupees 12,000. When cash is paid to the landlord, journal entry is landlord account is debited and cash account is credited to cash account rupees 12,000. Now landlord's account is closed. 12,000, and here you write rupees 12,000. And here royalty you transfer to profit and loss account as usual. Profit and loss account rupees 12,000. Close the account. 12,000 and rupees 12,000. See, this is the way how we have to prepare different accounts. Whenever minimum rent account is asked to prepare, you remember first two journal entries. When minimum rent is payable, journal entries minimum rent account is to be debited and landlord account is to be credited. And when minimum rent account is to be closed, that time royalty account is debited, short workings account is debited, and minimum rent account is to be credited. If you remember these two additional journal entries, then easily you can prepare minimum rent account and other accounts, but other journal entries remain same. I hope you understood this problem. If any doubt is there, you can send the message, and better you share this video even to your friends and the students who are studying in BCom, so that they can also get the benefit of this. Okay, thank you.